Welcome to Virtual Antics, your go-to podcast for digital entrepreneurs, powered by Nadora.org and NG Virtual Assistant. We're here to guide you through every aspect of business, from networking to lead generation and so much more. Get ready to thrive in the virtual world with expert insights and our all-in-one solution, Nadora, where creating a digital business becomes a breeze. Let's dive in and revolutionize your business journey together. Welcome back to the Virtual Antics Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Guzman, and today I am so excited because I have the amazing Casey with me. She is a certified holistic nutritionist and life coach, and she helps women stop dieting, attain freedom with food, and finally feel and look their healthiest selves. Welcome, Casey. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited you're here, especially, this is a huge topic for me because I think, I have gone through all the different relationships with food and, really have noticed, having a healthy lifestyle and being, a successful businesswoman kind of go hand in hand. So how did you get into being a certified holistic nutritionist and life coach?
Yeah, no, I love this question because I started struggling with food and my relationship with body way back in high school. And it started just because I noticed it was another thing I could control. And it was at a time in my life I wanted to control getting like the best grades, get into the best college, and all of these things, all of these aspects of my life. And it developed into a greater and greater problem. And I eventually knew I needed to get help, but I wasn't necessarily getting help for the right reasons. Eventually, however, though, I realized that I needed a totally different approach because I had eventually gained weight. I had been occupied a very small body, having restricted for many years. And I then started to really kind of have my body have backlash against me in a lot of ways. Hormones totally all over the place, hunger cravings all over the place. I felt like I couldn't control myself around food. I was like, why can't I control myself like I used to? And so I started to rapidly gain weight in an uncomfortable way. And I thought, okay, my answer is just going on another diet. So I tried literally all the diets and I was yo-yoing nonstop, making myself crazy, making my body miserable, causing inflammation, causing mental and physical harm, honestly, to my body. And so I continued that cycle for years and kept thinking, it'll be another diet, another exercise plan, right? But it wasn't until I was able to work with someone. I first started to work with the intuitive eating protocols that helped me to make some peace with food, and it did bring me somewhat of the way. But it was when I really worked with someone who was a holistic practitioner who really helped me to understand that food is more than just fuel, but how can I nourish my body to really feel my best and empower myself, and not just be like, okay, it doesn't matter, because it does matter what you eat. But how can we do it in a way that's honoring our body and our goals and being able to enjoy food again? And with that experience, I'd always been interested in food and nutrition. But with that experience, I really knew that it was my calling to be able to help other women to do the same that I was able to do, to what I was able to overcome. And so I went back on my nutrition certifications, and through that process and working with clients one-on-one, I knew the power of our mindset. And so then I also went to get my life coaching certification.
Wow, that's amazing. And, I feel like especially, women, we have related a lot of times food to comfort or our hormones. I know that my hormones, whenever I like my body feels like it's not eating enough, it just wants to binge. It's like that survival mode, right? Do you have any, success stories or, people that you've helped that have, you know, really been able to kind of stop the negative habits that come with food?
Oh, absolutely. That's like the number one thing I do with clients, because women who come to me know, because I'm very clear, like I'm not putting you on a set diet plan. What I am doing is I am teaching you and empowering you with how to eat. So what that means is also understanding your root causes and triggers. The reason why we may binge is not because we don't know that the Oreos and then the ice cream and then the pretzels and then the Lay's potato chips are going to make us feel shitty. Like, we're not unaware of this fact. It's because yes, as you said, like to some degree, yes, we need to have a good foundation of nutrition. So I work a lot, obviously, with educating about nutrition, especially for blood sugar balance, hormonal balance, overall satisfaction, because then you don't have to count calories or macros, even if you want to lose weight. But then we also have to go over your worthiness, your emotional eating, your boundaries. Like, how are you using ways to cope that aren't related to just food? Because food is like the low hanging fruit. We all can, like, almost all of us have access to food, right? And that can give us that rush of dopamine, that sense of comfort, but it's only short term. And so, can you sometimes use food emotionally? Of course. But think about when you use food emotionally in a positive way, it's a very different feeling. Like, when you have an extra slice of cake on your birthday, or when you're celebrating something, you don't wake up the next morning feeling like you're a piece of crap. But when you do that because you just had a really bad day at work and you didn't actually want to process those emotions, you go back the next day into work, it's a continuous cycle. And every night then you're having that extra slice. That's when you don't feel great about yourself, and your body reflects that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I noticed, especially when my kids were younger, because I was in that no sleep. So it's always not just food too. I feel like it's like, you're not sleeping. You're, like you said, you're not actually working on your emotions in a healthy way. Everything just kind of like goes in hand in hand. And when they were younger, I remember on the really stressful days, I would go and I would get fast food. I'm like, man, it's quick, it's simple. And then I was getting addicted to it because it was bringing me comfort. And I think that was one of the hardest things, was to stop that. And most of my listeners know, so I'm actually I've lost 80 pounds so far since February.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that was, my relationship with food. And it's crazy how often we are using food for, for fun, for bonding with people, for celebrating things, for I feel like every heightened emotion we have, there's food involved. And I think I wasn't really aware of that until this recent weight loss journey. And then it's so now we have what we just started doing, which has been helpful, is having a restaurant list. And so I know what foods I'm going to get at those restaurants. And then I also work on portion control. So I do I have a box or whatnot. And so I only eat what I put on my plate, because every restaurant portion is different, right? Some are huge and some are small. But what are some tips that you have for people that want to have a healthy relationship with food?
First of all, I just want to say that I am very proud of you. And I feel like a lot of times weight loss just in of itself is praised, but what you have done, and the reason why I'm happy for you, I mean, I want to be happy for anyone, obviously, in their journey, but it's clearly coming from a place where you said you weren't taking care of yourself. You were in the way that you wanted to, at least, right? And you were going to fast food. You weren't acknowledging your relationship with food, right? None of this was oh, I realized that carbs were the devil, and so I decided to not eat them, or I'm never going out to eat, right? You want to have a good relationship, I assume, with food for your children as well, which I have a lot of people, moms, coming to me saying, I want to have a good relationship with food so that my kids can model that as well. And I can be able to go out with them and vacation with them and enjoy food, but also be able to show them that health can be a really great thing as well. And so in terms of the tips that I have, first of all, you need to be honest with yourself and where you are with food. Do you want to continue eating this way for the rest of your life? Because the way that you approach your weight loss, and I think that's in some communities, weight loss is an evil term. Weight loss doesn't have to be evil as long as it's coming from a good place, right? And the approach is great. So the thing is that the way that you want to, get to that health, get to that weight loss, is what you're pretty much going to have to do for the rest of your life to maintain it. So you have to be honest with yourself if what you're doing is what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And exactly the things that you're saying, for example, are sustainable habits. Now, in terms of what we can do in terms of practicality, I know people are like, well, give me the actual tips, right? First, there's a couple things that I would say from a baseline nutrition perspective. First thing I will say is really trying to avoid any what I call naked carbohydrates. So what we want to do to balance our blood sugar is we want to make sure that we are having protein, fat, and fiber-rich carbs at all of our meals and snacks. So what this is going to do is it's going to help to balance our blood sugar, which is going to prevent those blood sugar spikes. The reason why we want to prevent those blood sugar spikes is because that spike and then crash is what leads us to be hangry. It what leads us to be low energy. It's also what leads us to be craving foods again, a lot of times more processed, simple carbohydrate foods. It also negatively affects our hormones, all like a cascade of hormones in our body, including our cortisol. Also, that type of insulin spike, like over time, that signals fat storage as well. So if we have a body recomposition goal, that's not going to be great as well. So it's not about cutting foods out, but how can we be able to modify what we're eating? So for example, you want to eat Twizzlers. Okay, you want to have Twizzlers. Maybe you can have a handful of almonds with the Twizzlers, like something like that, so we can be able to balance it out. So as we can see, it's not about taking out all of those foods, but how can we blood sugar balance them? The reason why the almonds are great is because they have a lot of healthy fat, they have some protein. If we really wanted to make it like something that's really blood sugar balancing, we'd add something that has like fiber in it as well. Another thing too is I really don't want people to underestimate the power of your mindset while you are eating. So when we are in a place of stress, and then we go to eat, we're at our computer, we are having our boss yell at us, and then we go to eat, or we have our kids going crazy in the background, right? What I really suggest is for you to put your hand over your belly and take 3 deep belly breaths. This helps to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest state. And this will help you to be more present while you're eating, which when we know we're more present when we're eating, we're likely to be able to eat the portion that our body needs. And then it also is going to help your body to digest and absorb that food more properly. It can help with overall digestive distress and reduce bloating, for example. So those are 2 little tips that you guys can take with you that you can really do anywhere.
I love that. That is amazing. And I actually have never heard of the belly thing. So I'm definitely going to try that. I think that's super cool. And then, so routines, do you think routines are helpful when we are trying to build a healthy relationship with food?
Definitely. It depends though, if the routine is out of rigidity, right? So if we can create a routine where we're doing meditation and journaling so that we are working more on our mindset when we're having healthier outlets. Another thing is reflecting on how we ate that day, right? Can we be able to do a journal entry on how our emotions were with food, not just like I was good or bad. I don't like the labeling of food. And that's a big thing. I know you asked about habit tips for your mindset. Now, I'm not one to say all food is equal because that's just not true. But at the same time, the way our words matter. And so if you're saying that food is bad, what are you going to think other than you are a bad person from eating that food, right? So we need to be careful about how we are labeling those foods, but at the same time, we can still reflect and say, this food made me feel this way, or I feel like my lunch portion was not large enough because I was really snacky in the afternoon. So just reflecting in that way, those are really great practices that we can have in terms of routine. And then I also believe that just having structure in general, especially when you're trying to build up healthy habits with food. So don't subscribe to like you need to eat during these hours, but at the same time, you should have enough of a satisfying breakfast and then lunch and then dinner and snack, whatever, that you can go, those 3-hour spans and 4, whatever, 5 even spans in between. So if you can create routine, whether it's a meal prep, whether it's, having certain times when you can enjoy and sit down and eat your breakfast, I think that is fantastic. Where I see those routines go awry is when we are so rigid that we get into this all or nothing perfectionist mentality that if we can't hit that routine perfectly, then we fail. And then we're like, okay, I already failed. So what is this day anyway? Right. And so like, I guess I will just do the fast food and then come home and and not like cook for my kids and just say we're eating ice cream for the rest of the week. Obviously that's really extreme. But we can really get into our heads and we can get really down on ourselves when the point is really learning and building upon our routines and habits versus making them an ultimatum.
And I think one of the biggest changes in my mindset that when it comes to routines is like, if you do fail, usually we'll say, oh, well, we'll start over tomorrow. We'll start over on Monday. One of the smartest things I ever heard is, no, you start over right now. You realize you didn't necessarily fail because like you said, bad or good and things like that. But if you want to change something, be aware of that and change it right now. Like, so the next, starting right now, not tomorrow, not Monday, that's when you're going to basically not start over, but continue those healthy habits. I think that was the big thing for me because I was always like, oh, we'll start over on Monday or me and my husband will always have a pact for like starting tomorrow. We're going to eat healthy and we're going to do high protein. And I had done every diet in the book. And it wasn't until like I really combined like the mind shift and then also understanding, all around balanced life. Like my kids just had 2 birthdays, right? And so I had ice cream and cake, but I didn't have as much as I would. Usually I would have like a whole big piece of cake. I just had a couple bites here and there. I enjoyed it. I savored it. And then I was done. And I think just some of those things like realizing, one was that my portions were that was a personal thing for me, that my portions were really big for what my body needed. And kind of understanding that was a huge, huge help in my weight loss journey. And I love what you said, everything about, like your routines don't be super, super rigid because it builds up that negative emotion like that we have in ourselves. And we are probably our hardest critics. And so definitely we have to give ourselves the grace to, to start over.
Yeah. And you didn't go out there and say like, this is my set portion that I have for this. You've been learning about your body and about yourself. And we, a lot of times like go too hard, too fast. And it's what leads to that diet crash and that yo-yo cycle. So a lot of the women that come to me have been like on that roller coaster and they're just so frustrated. And they're like, why can't I just sustain weight loss? Or why can't I just feel healthy? And it really goes back to like the key here, the big secret is that it's obviously we have to improve upon our nutrition, but the big secret is not that. It's actually our mental approach to the health, to the food. And that's why it is so very easy to advertise like, oh, eat this diet or count this many points or download this app and then it will give you your calories and you'll be fine. Okay. But the app isn't there for you when you have had a crappy day at work and you come home and your partner hasn't cleaned the house like they were supposed to, and your kids are running around crazy and you just feel so overwhelmed. That app isn't there for you. Those points aren't going to help you, right? So we need to be able to prepare ourselves for life. And I say that our relationship with food is a relationship with like so many other things in our life. And so if we can find balance and peace with that, we can find balance and peace in our general life, which is what leads to happiness. So it really is something that we cannot overlook.
That's amazing. So where can we find more about you and your services?
Yeah. So I offer private coaching, small group coaching services as well. My handle on Instagram is Your Case. So like I'm Casey, but like Casey without the Y, Your Case for Wellness. That's where I'm most active on Instagram, on other platforms as well. But if you just want to like send me a message, would love to chat with you. And I'll give you a link, Natalie, for your listeners to download. I have like a wellness, I'll give them like my wellness guide with my Stop Overeating workbook and my top nutrition tips video. I can send that over for you as well to provide them.
We love that. Thank you so much. Well, it's been a pleasure having you and we will talk to you guys next time. See ya.
Thank you so much.